What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it's happened again to Nintendo, and it actually continues to outline one of the major issues they've been facing this entire generation, and something they need to figure out going into the Switch 2 start, and we're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Ubisoft as we have a situation once again where, well, things are getting worse in terms of, I would say, creativity in that AA space, as a game that I really liked appears to be done with that team being disbanded. And then we'll also be going over Guerrilla Games at Sony, as it looks like they truly are done with that Killzone franchise. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps it a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members of the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're gonna start today with Microsoft and a new Xbox headset. Well, a refreshed new Xbox headset. We can see this over on news.xbox.com. And this appears to be a new version of the current headset because it looks exactly like the current one. Now, they do say there are some improvements that warrant the slightly more expensive $110 price tag, saying Dolby Atmos at no additional cost. This updated headset delivers immersive spatial audio that brings games to life in vivid detail. They've also improved the battery life, offering up to 20 hours of playtime. I think the current one's like 10 hours or so. They upgraded the microphone with enhanced auto mute and voice isolation for crystal clear communication. And they now feature Bluetooth 5.3. They do talk about the design, although again, it looks just like the current one, which I actually have the current one and have used it. And for the most part, it's good. I mean, the sound quality, it could be better, and maybe that's what we're seeing here with this one. Although I don't really need to replace it, so it is that sense of I already have it. Don't really need another one necessarily until this one stops working. But if you're looking for a good wireless headset, at least from what we're hearing from the press release from Microsoft, it's good. We'll see about more independent reviews as they roll out, as this thing is currently available, so should see some of those soon. Also, we did have Masahiro Sakurai post his final episode, or just his finale, on his YouTube account, and his channel hosted a 40-minute or so premiere that actually gave us a lot of insight into how he made these different episodes that actually date back 2.5 years. He recorded all of them in a month or so, and then over time had a company go through and edit and add all kinds of fun little effects to give you the presentation that we've seen this entire way. But part of this actually told us that he's been working on a game for the last 2.5 years, and part of this came down to him having some time off because of this pitch and trying to get people together for it, so he did a YouTube channel. But now everyone, of course, is speculating on what is the game that he's been working on for 2.5 years, because when you get to that point, you feel like you're going into like full-scale production, and maybe you're getting ready to show the thing. So if I had to take a guess, I mean, the safe one is it's the next Smash Brothers for the new system, the Switch 2, and maybe it's like a reboot of the Smash Brothers franchise, and that's why he maybe became interested in that concept as opposed to just building on what he's done before. Maybe he can completely flip the whole thing on its head, and here's a brand new Smash Brothers style game, or maybe he is getting a shot at another new IP, or maybe a Kid Icarus game that is actually designed from the ground up for a much more capable system than what he had to do on the 3DS. Still cool, but there were issues, of course, limitations when it comes to controls and obviously visuals and just overall horsepower for that system. So personally, I would like to see that specifically, a new Kid Icarus game, but I'd also be curious to see what he might do with the next Smash Brothers, because I do feel like you have to somewhat go back to the drawing board if you want to innovate on that again. Oh, and we did get that release date for Metal Slug Tactics, finally. This thing's been delayed multiple times now, but in their latest trailer here, they do have the release date set November 5th, 2024, so it's okay, it's like 2 weeks away. Great. Hey, you know what? Don't mind that. At least get the date, and it's coming out soon. That, of course, is on PC through Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, basically everything out currently. And I like the idea of having this tactics spin-off for the Metal Slug universe, because whenever I think of Metal Slug, I just think of like the 2D side-scrolling run and gun. So this could at least be an interesting concept for it. And again, don't have to wait too much longer, just a couple of weeks on November 5th. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and another game that's leaked out early, actually quite a bit early considering it's not out until what, November 7th, but it actually got dumped online just the other day, and I've actually been able to confirm this as people were talking about it, and we started to see images and video files just leak out online for different parts of this game. already, and that is Mario and Luigi Brothership, which we did see the box art for it that confirmed things like Unreal Engine being used, as well as Acquire working to co-develop it with Nintendo, which to me, that's not a big deal. It's like these are things that these publishers would normally tell you as they're leading up with the marketing. So, all right, sure. But when we start seeing actual spoilers get out there, that obviously starts to just damage the game for a lot of people, since you're just going to have things like the final boss show up as a thumbnail image on YouTube. So, yes, in one sense, I'm here to warn you that it has indeed leaked out, and there are already spoiler threads popping up on different forums for Mario and Luigi Brothership that's out in 2 weeks. But something else with this, and this is definitely a concern for Nintendo now with the Switch system, as we've seen them be very, very aggressive with these different emulators, and they've gone out and figured out ways to take basically all of the big ones down at this point. But when you look back on, even like recently as this year, the different games that have leaked out early, which I actually went through, made a whole list of them and double checked to see how early they had leaked out or if they had leaked out at all. For the most part, a lot of the games that are, I'll say, lower profile, like Another Code Recollection, for example, that was right at the beginning of the year. That one didn't leak out. Neither did Mario vs. Donkey Kong. But then we get up to Princess Peach Showtime. That one did leak out early. Endless Ocean did not. But then Paper Mario Thousand Year Door did. And then we have Luigi Mansion 2 HD, Nintendo World Championships, MEO, The Smiling Man. None of those leaked out. But then we had a run here of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Mario Party Jamboree, now Mario and Luigi Brothership, and third-party wise, we just had Sonic Cross Shadows Generations leak out early, and these are games that just, you go online, obviously people download the ROMs, which aren't even like massive in size anyway, and then they can start playing them on their PC or their hacked Switch. Now, when you see a game leak out for something like the PlayStation 5, for example, Silent Hill 2 did leak out early, but because there's no emulator technically to play these games like well on PC, I know there's like a PS4 emulator that's been going through development, but like PS5, no, nothing like that. Even if Silent Hill 2 leaks out and somebody plays through it, you can pretty much avoid it because they're not dumping the game to the PC and then uploading it online and everyone's just data mining it and playing it and doing all this stuff. So Nintendo is in this very strange situation where their system has already been fully emulated, actually well, like on PC, despite it being current at this time, and it's been pretty much blown wide open from the start by just using a paperclip. And security is going to be a serious thing that they focus on, I'm sure, going into next generation with the Switch too. But yes, Mario and Luigi Brothership has indeed leaked out online, so be careful with spoilers because you got a couple of weeks to go still. Next up, let's talk about Guerrilla Games, because there was an interview that's taken place for LEGO Horizon Adventures that is coming up here in a few weeks as well. But this is actually talking with the art director at Guerrilla Games, and of course, Killzone came up as people right now are trying to help Sony kind of from the peripheral, like, hey, here's maybe a game franchise you could bring back for this live service struggle that you're going through with Concord. Maybe if you just made SOCOM or a Killzone or a Resistance, and maybe that would work better. Well, it seems like, at least for Guerrilla's mindset, they're not interested in really pursuing Killzone any longer. We can see this posted up. This is actually over on Push Square, but it was quoting the Washington Post from the art director Roy Postma, who says, "We were done with it, Killzone, as a team. As a studio, we needed to refresh the palette. It was by choice the opposite of Killzone. I think the themes that this story and the characters represent are relatable for all ages and people, like having found family of friends and finding your place in the world." So basically, yes, they're really no interest in Killzone. It's kind of like how we hear Sucker Punch and they don't really have interest in going back and doing, I guess, Infamous or some of the other titles. They have a franchise now in front of them they're working on. In this case, with Guerrilla, it's Horizon. And I mean, it's been very successful for them in terms of just raw numbers and like units that they have sold or given away, I guess, or deeply. It's hard to really get an idea as to how much money that franchise has made, how successful it is, because just over time, it's even become incredibly cheap, right? And now we see the price go back up for Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster. And when I look at Horizon, I always end up talking to someone who's either side of it. Either they really like Horizon or they just it has never clicked with them and they don't really care much about it. I really haven't seen many people kind of in the middle on it. So in this case, yeah, if you like Horizon, you're probably like, oh, cool. We don't have to worry about them wasting time on Killzone, just full speed ahead on Horizon. If you don't like Horizon, you're probably like, why won't they go back to Killzone or do something else? Because Sony's certainly all in on this. Might have something to do with Herman Holst also kind of running the show there when it comes to a lot of the game studios. Yeah, let's do a whole bunch of Horizon, and that's what it sounds like we're getting, so little concerned with the idea of them running it into the ground and them just doing too many Horizon games, but at the very least we know we have one more setup for the main set of games, as I guess that's going to be a trilogy, but then we also hear about like a multiplayer game, a mobile game, and then others, so a lot of Horizon down in the pipeline here, and unfortunately for Killzone fans, none of that. Next up, let's talk about Ubisoft, and actually one of the best games they've released in quite some time, and that's Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, because unfortunately, it looks like for that team, it's going to end there. This we can see posted up. This is over on Reset Era, as the person did transcribe and translated it here. It comes from a reliable French game journalist, Gautaz, and the summary that they made: internally, the fate of the game was already decided a few weeks after the release of the game. It was clear in spring that after releasing a few DLCs and cosmetics, it would be the end. A few members of the core dev team fought to get a sequel greenlit, which did not happen. Then they pushed for 2 expansions, hoping that it would work this time, but it didn't, since Ubisoft needed more hands to help on other projects that had a better sales potential, which wasn't the case with Lost Crown, not meeting sales expectations. Another crazy justification that the dev team received from higher-ups was that releasing a sequel for the game would cannibalize long-term sales of the first game. Okay, that's a take, I guess. It's unfortunate here because, in one sense, it takes more than just making a good game. Like with Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, it was a 2D Metroidvania style, so it can be high quality, but they were already fighting an uphill battle. One, I understand a 2D game in general now, especially like a Metroidvania, is viewed as lesser than, as like it can't be a full price game. This wasn't a full price game when it came out, but it also wasn't $20. And I saw that go around a lot. I'll wait till it's $20. I'll wait till it's $10. Well, you wait so long, and even though you look at it and recognize that it's a quality game and a good game, well, they don't have that much time. It's like, okay, you can either work on the next Prince of Persia 2D Metroidvania style game, or we can put you on an Assassin's Creed title that we feel like would just sell better. That's just the name of the game now with Ubisoft, and a lot of people also look at Ubisoft and go, well, wait, because I already know their games are going to go on sale later. So they have damaged their brand in general. Like we've seen it in the stocks. Like it's not shocking to hear that Ubisoft is becoming more risk off with their stuff, and they're doubling down on things that work for them, like Assassin's Creed. But the concern, as we see with Assassin's Creed Shadows, is like, okay, what happens when that stops working? Because now they're clearly worried about the release of that game, that they've pushed it out of the holiday season. And that's the biggest thing right now for Ubisoft, is what's the strategy if Assassin's Creed doesn't work out? And unfortunately for something like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which rated an 87, for many people it's one of the best Ubisoft games they've played in a long time, didn't cut it, and they've disbanded that team, which mostly means that they've split them up and put them on different Assassin's Creed projects, most likely. So there you go. Unfortunate stuff there. I still say if you've been curious about the game and you can catch it on sale, as I know that's what most people are waiting for, yes, it is absolutely worth $20. I thought it was worth the full price when it came out. I played through it and had a great time, and there's even DLC that's out now. So I'll recommend it. Check it out. If it's something maybe you pick up during Black Friday for $15, even better, but definitely put that one on your list. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a VR game that caught my, and I'm sure many other people's, interest, and that's Batman Arkham Shadow. Now, I will say there was a lot of annoyance when it was shown that the next Batman Arkham game was going to be in VR exclusively, and I get it. You need to make sure you have the headset that can play it, especially since it wasn't a PSVR 2 title, it was a meta title, so you would need at very least the Quest 3, or I guess the newest Quest 3 headset that just came out. In fact, it was actually bundled with this Batman game, and we did have some reviews come up, which we can see posted over on Metacritic. It's actually at an 87. Now, this is on 5 reviews, so it's not like we have a ton of stuff to go off of here. And I haven't picked this one up myself. I actually was sitting here thinking about getting the new headset for this specifically. And I believe Sean actually got it. So I guess keep an eye out on RGT's channel, as he was messaging me saying that it's actually awesome. So I feel like he's probably going to have a pretty good review coming up for it. Maybe he'll get some footage for it and stuff. But for the most part, I mean, like Upload VR gave it a 90, said that it feels faithful to the flat screen Arkham games while innovating in its own way through VR specific design. Gaming Trend says it's the latest must-buy VR title, and it does its namesake justice. The lowest review I can find here is an 80 from Gaming Nexus, and their thing was a bevy of game-stopping bugs and some of the sharpest difficulty spikes they've encountered kept this bat from immediately soaring. So I mean, just in terms of VR, again, it's an interesting title. It's one I would like to experience, and maybe I'll keep an eye on that headset as we go through the holidays, and maybe I'll grab it at some point. But I'm definitely going to see what Sean has to say about this one, because it seems like he's having a good time with it, and maybe even look into some of the gameplay and stuff for it. But at least for VR owners now, if you have a Meta Quest 3, seems like there's a pretty good game you should be checking out here with Batman Arkham Shadow. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you played Prince of Persia: The Lost... Well, okay, never mind. There it is. 81% say no. 19% say yes. And look, if you're Ubisoft and you're going over the numbers and you're seeing that people just really didn't buy this game, you're probably not going to greenlight that sequel. I understand it's business at the end of the day, but also it's really hard for these games to overcome that Ubisoft logo, and it's a 2D game. It's tough. A lot of people in the comments I saw, they're just like, yeah, I'm not buying something from Ubisoft. I'll wait for it to be on sale, or I'm just not interested because of Ubisoft. And it's like, man, that's tough. And it does make me a bit concerned about some of those other, like Splinter Cell Remake. Maybe that's enough to overcome the Ubisoft logo. Maybe a 3D Prince of Persia like the Sands of Time remake. Maybe that's enough to overcome that Ubisoft logo. But a 2D game, Metroidvania style, that already is in that realm of Ori and Hollow Knight that are just cheaper alternatives, it was an uphill battle the whole way. But hey, if you find it on sale for, well, Hollow Knight prices, yeah, absolutely pick it up. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from GameBit, who says, everything will leak out early these days. To think in the late 80s, our current news was done by a month behind magazine, and a leak hardly ever happened. Heck, was working at Toys R Us. I one day opened a box and found a new Sega system called the Saturn. It had no clue it was coming out. Good times. Well, I think with the Saturn, if I'm not mistaken, Sega did like a botched launch for that thing, and it was very strange. It was very like last minute for developers and even retail, and so it's not shocking, actually, now I think about it, that you would be surprised by Sega Saturns just showing up at Toys R Us with very little marketing material. But you're absolutely right about how magazines would carry a lot of the news back then, and it was usually months behind. I was online pretty early, like in my childhood, actually, which, well, it was different times still, but like the dial-up modem and stuff, I'd be able to get information a bit sooner. But the best was like, we get a lot of information immediately on our phones, on social media and other places, right? Out of context stuff even. Back then, a lot of that was just spread through the grapevine. Like you tell a friend, they'd tell a friend, and then they would tell somebody else, and it would just go around the schoolyard or wherever, and then you end up with Mew under the truck, and people swear it's a real thing, right? Or you'd end up with blast processing or bit wars, and it was definitely a different time, whereas now you can just ask your phone and get any information you want in just a few seconds. Back then, it was definitely on a delay by months at a time. It was quite different then. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card for you. Or maybe you wanted to see one of those refurbished PlayStation 5 systems from Sony, where I went ahead and tore the whole thing down, I'll leave it right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.